Welcome to Phil and Dave's Excellent Adventures. Just Dave here. Today I'm talking about the movie Clerks III. This is going to be a spoiler review, so if you haven't seen the movie yet and you are concerned about spoilers, I would suggest you go and watch the movie first before you watch this review. So Clerks III is the sequel to Clerks II. It's Kevin Smith's latest movie. It's, I believe, the ninth overall in the View Askewniverse movies. So the basic plot of the movie is that one of the characters, Randal, has a heart attack and decides that he wants to make a movie. It's very much inspired by the real-life events of Kevin Smith having a heart attack and, of course, the making of the first Clerks movie. So as far as what I liked about the movie, overall, I thought the cast did a really good job. I thought, in particular, Jeff Anderson did a good job as Randal, the scene where he has a heart attack. I thought he was really good in that. I think, in the first movie, he was fine. He's got a very funny voice, and his line delivery, I think, is very funny, but wasn't necessarily the greatest actor, I think, and he's really evolved, I think. He's gotten a lot better. I like him in this movie a lot. I like Jason Mewes in this movie a lot as well. There's scenes where he has to pretend like he's acting badly, and I think he did really good there. And all the stuff with him being camera shy, which is, again, based on real events, he was great in that. Rosario Dawson's really good in this as well. She doesn't look like she's really aged much at all, unlike the other people. So, yeah, she was great, and her role made a lot of sense. And at first, I was a little upset with what they did to her character, but I think it worked out in the end. So I'll talk about that more as we go on. And I like Amy Sedaris in here, too, as the doctor who saves his life. So other than that, I really like the fact that we had a lot of the same returning cast come back. Marilyn Gigliotti came back. She's on the poster right here as Veronica, and she hasn't really done much that I know of since Clerks, so it's good to see her back. We got Scott Mosier in there as a quick little cameo. I don't think he says anything, but he went on to become a big producer, and he directed the most recent Grinch movie. But yeah, he's always been a fan or a friend of Kevin Smith. We got Walt Flanagan in there again as the egg guy. Several other cameos from later movies, like Ming Chen shows up in the hockey scene, and a bunch of the Kevin Smith regulars that you see all the time. And I enjoyed seeing them, and I really liked them. They managed to get a lot of people to reprise their role from the original, even some of the people who weren't actors, just regular people who were customers who came in. And so, yeah, it was cool seeing all that. I really liked the music in this movie. They used Welcome to the Black Parade as the opening, and I thought it fit really well, and I've always liked that song a lot. They've also got a song called I'm From New Jersey by John Gorka in there that I liked, a couple other songs that I liked as well. So, overall, really good stuff. And I think it made me realize as watching this movie, Kevin Smith had a lot of good music in at least the Clerks movies, but all of his movies, really. But the first one had, Alice in Chains, a lot of good stuff like that. The second one had Jackson 5. So, yeah, this movie continues with this streak of music, at least that I really like. I like the Crom stuff in there about how he worshiped Crom, Conan's God, so that was cool. That's funny to me. I like the little kind of inside stuff like Ranger Danger and the Eternity Blocker reference, which was, of course, Ranger Danger is a character Kevin Smith has been talking about for years and is maybe eventually going to do something about. He's talked about it, but he's sort of his fake little superhero character. And Eternity Blocker is, of course, the evolution of Cock Blocker from the Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back movie. So that kind of stuff was fun. There was even a Ranger Danger poster with the hostess pie thing on the wall, and I like that a lot. I like the art on that. Overall, I like the story for this, this idea of two guys who want to make a movie together. I think it's a really good idea. I mean, obviously, a ton of movies have been made like this before, but they're always very inspiring and always nice to see because it reminds me, a lot of myself and my friends and growing up and the kind of stuff we wanted to do. I really like the heart attack scene. Like I said, I thought Jeff Anderson did a really good job portraying that heart attack. It was really pretty believable and everything else. I liked the Christian kid, Elias, has turned to Satanism. That was really funny. At first, I was kind of, I know his character's a parody and he's kind of goofy and joking around, but I just don't like people like that, so I don't want to see them even as a joke, But once he made the turn to worshiping Satan, I was like, all right, cool, I can get behind this. And no, it was actually really funny, like the stuff where he pulls down his pants in the hospital and stuff and all that had me laughing. Yeah, it was a good time. Again, I like Jay's bad acting. I thought that was really funny. I thought overall the movie was a very crowd-pleasing kind of movie. It's kind of movie that's, even though it's got kind of a sad ending, it leaves you with a happy kind of inspiring feeling, and it makes you feel good. It makes you kind of, I don't know, it reminded me at least of what I really love about movies. And then going into the ending here, full spoilers now, of course, I really liked the ending of this movie. There was some stuff, like I said, I didn't necessarily like the Rosario Dawson that they had decided to kill off her character. It's essentially, fridging, and it's something that I've complained about before and a lot of people have mentioned. And so I didn't really like that. I thought there could have been something else. They could have had them get divorced. They could have had, other things happen. But by the end, when Dante actually dies as well and meets up with his wife in heaven, I thought it was somewhat justified. I actually really liked that. And once I realized that, I saw Dante was in the theater and I realized, oh, he's dead right now. That really hit me, and I will admit I teared up a little bit. As Randal was revealing how much he really appreciated his friendship, and that he really was the Luke the whole time and everything. I really liked that. It was really nice and really sweet, and yeah, it was a great little ending. And I think maybe it was kind of the same lesson from Clerks II, you could argue, but whatever. It's been 15 years. He had to learn it again. And anyway, I think we have a tendency to take advantage of our friends, especially people that we've known for a long time. So yeah, it really resonated with me because I've definitely got some friends who I feel like I've had similar conversations with where I don't really appreciate them as much as I should because, I don't know, you take them for granted, I guess. So as far as what I disliked about this, I thought Brian O'Halloran's performance was mostly really good. But there were a few scenes where I just feel like it's a very challenging role. He had a lot to deal with the whole dead wife and all of that. And I thought it was mostly good, but there was definitely a couple scenes where his acting was just a little unbelievable, where I could tell that he was acting. And I think it's the kind of thing, if I saw him on a stage, on a play, I would say, oh, that was good acting. The guy was a better actor than I realized. But in a movie, it doesn't quite work. And I honestly, I feel like I owe that more maybe to Kevin Smith's direction than I do to his acting, because I don't exactly know how to define it, but I feel like good directors can get good performances out of actors regardless of how, as long as they're somewhat competent. And I feel like there was just some scenes, if they were shot a little differently or cut a little differently, the performance would have been a little bit better. Just a couple scenes. And then the scene where he starts yelling at Randal and they get into that fight, it started out a little rough, but there's a part there where he's great. He's doing really good and it's really believable and it's really great. And then they kind of cut and they come back to him. And then just for a second, I'm taken out of it. And again, I think it's more the direction than his actual acting, but I can't say. I didn't really particularly like Jennifer Schwalbach over here. In the movie, she's Kevin Smith's wife in real life. She's not a professional actress. I thought she was okay in some of the earlier movies, but in this one, and whenever she came on screen, it was just very, it just took me out of the movie a bit, I guess. I didn't love Trevor Fehrman as Elias. I liked the character, and I liked the way that he changed to Satanism, and I liked that he stayed a Satanist, which is cool. I was worried they were going to flip him back. But yeah, his performance was a little lacking in some parts. And I think he's just one of those guys who can't really yell. Like, some people can't yell, which is fascinating to me because I'm constantly trying to prevent myself from yelling. But yeah, it's one of those guys, there's a couple scenes where he has to really convey emotion and anger, and it wasn't too believable to me. But again, maybe that's just the way that he is, And again, I do really chalk a lot of that up to the direction. Like I said, we did get most of the characters from the original Clerks back, even some of the smaller side characters and little one-off things. But Lisa Spoonhour, as Caitlin, was not able to come back because she passed away in 2017. So that's unfortunate. They had a little memorial to her and somebody else in the credits, and I'm not sure who the other person was. Other than that, things I didn't like too much in this movie, there's a scene where they have auditions for the movie. And actually, I liked most of the auditions. I thought Ben Affleck was kind of funny. I liked Sarah Michelle Gellar, and Freddie Prinze Jr. Actually, Freddie Prinze Jr. part was funny because he was actually playing himself. He wasn't trying to be a different character. And the idea that that's where he is in his career. Why not? I like that he was kind of making fun of himself, I assume. But I did not necessarily love Melissa Benoist or Chris Wood's stuff too much. Again, I'm not necessarily a huge fan. I don't dislike them. They were both on the Supergirl show, and I think they're married in real life. But they're friends with Kevin Smith. And so I think it was just a little bit, hey, there's my friends being funny. I like them. But it didn't work for me. I've seen other people say they like it, though. So I don't know. Mileage may vary on that one. I did like the Impractical Jokers guys, though. I like them. I know Quinn has been kind of with them for a while. He was a fan of Kevin Smith's for a long time. And so, yeah, it's cool to see them in there. And I like them. We got Joe back, Joe Gatto, who's kind of left the group. So, yeah, I liked all their stuff. A lot of ways, for something about it, just the way it was shot and the way things come up just kind of reminded me more of like a TV show than a movie. And I do know the movie had a pretty low budget, so maybe that's a little bit why. But another contributing factor to that was the score. And it was really just one scene in particular where the score stood out to me and just felt like a TV show score. And didn't quite fit. And mostly I don't notice the score. And I think, a lot of times the score is not really supposed to be front and center of a movie. But yeah, there was one scene in particular where the score just struck me as like a TV show kind of silly score. It was by James Venable, who's done almost all of Kevin Smith's stuff, at least his more recent stuff since Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. He did the Venom movie, and then a lot of cartoons like Samurai Jack and Powerpuff Girls. I already addressed the Frigid thing. Like I said, that is an issue, but I think the fact that he died in the end and was reunited with his wife kind of made it worth it, so it didn't bother me as much. One thing that I did have a big issue with in this movie is Kevin Smith has this weird spray tan or fake tan, or I don't know the specifics, but his face is very, very brown to the point where it's almost blackface. I assume what happened was they were filming. He was like, "Oh, I'm going to be on camera. I got to get a tan. I don't want to be so white." And then he overdid it. And then they couldn't do anything about it, or nobody said anything about it. But it is a little distracting whenever he's on screen. He is so dark, like so much more noticeably more dark than everybody else that's around. And it is a little weird. And I will say, Kevin Smith, Silent Bob, always does this thing where he has one line or, just a couple little lines. And this one, he has more than a couple lines. He has the little scene where he explains why they want to film it in black and white. And then he has another one that I don't actually even remember. But either way, I think it would have been better. A little goes a long way with that character. Even though I like Kevin Smith and I think he's funny and I like his performance. And he's actually gotten to be a pretty good actor too, I think. Yeah. And then again, I hate to bring it up, but it was a little distracting. Jason Mewes' teeth. I think he's got fake teeth. I assume drug use. He had to get them replaced. But there's one scene in particular where I'm just like, what's going on with him? And I go, oh, it's his teeth. They're weird and fake and too big and they don't fit his mouth. Again, kind of cosmetic things, but things that I found a little distracting. Other than that, the movie was written and directed by Kevin Smith, of course, who did all of the other movies. I'm a Kevin Smith fan. I've been a fan since I was a kid. I remember seeing him on talk shows when I was 11 years old, when Clerks first came out, and hearing about this movie. And then I went to the local library to rent it from them. And I remember watching it and being too young for it, really, but my sisters, I think, liking it. And, I've followed his career since then. And it's easy to make fun of Kevin Smith because he's made some bad movies, like Yoga Hosers and Tusk and stuff like that. But I think it's easy to forget the significance of Clerks because it really was the kind of movie where, not quite the same, but almost like the Velvet Underground, where like not many people bought the album, but everyone who did started their own band. I think Clerks was this movie where he made it for $35,000 or something like that. And I think it really inspired a lot of people to go out and try to make these movies. I think they saw this guy and said, oh, hey, if he can do that, then I can do that. And I'm sure, Tarantino and other people had some influence in there as well. But yeah, I think there's something to that. And also, he was one of the first cinematic universes. I'm sure there was something before that, and I'm sure other people have done it in some other ways. But this is the first one, at least I was aware of. I know General Hospital and TV shows have done other stuff, and they're all technically connected if you want to get goofy. But he was one of the first people that when he made Mallrats in '95, he said, no, it's the same universe as Clerks. It actually takes place the day before, I believe. And yeah, he's made 9 movies now like that. So he beat the MCU to the punch by 13 years, something like that. My math wrong? I don't know. But yeah, so I like it. This is what the first Clerks movie, at least, not directed or not shot, not DP'd by David Klein, who was the director of photography or the cinematographer for the first 2. He's gone on to a pretty good career. He's actually working on the Mandalorian, Star Wars type stuff. So he wasn't able to do this because of prior commitments to, I believe, Mandalorian or Boba Fett or Obi-Wan Kenobi, I think. So a guy named Liren Kainoff did it. I'm not too familiar with him. Actually, I did not look him up. So I don't think the movie looked quite as good as Clerks 2 did, for example, which actually I thought the cinematography in that was pretty good. It did look a little flat. It did look like it could have been a little bit more dynamic. Like I said, definitely kind of a TV show kind of look to it. That being said, it did have a low budget, $7 million. So maybe that was part of it as well. The movie was filmed in New Jersey, which is, I think, important to them. There was part of a tax thing and everything else, but I believe they did the second Clerks movie in New Orleans, and they just rebuilt the quick stop and all that stuff. But with this movie, they actually went down to New Jersey and filmed it there, so I thought that was pretty cool. Mark Bernardin is in here as a little cameo. So I watch Kevin Smith's podcast, Fat Man Beyond. I like his podcast a lot, even though I haven't liked his movies since Clerks 2 was probably the last one I really liked. But yeah, his regular co-host, Mark Bernardin, was in here. He doesn't speak at all, but he plays the character Lando, who was, I believe, referenced in the Clerks cartoon and maybe even in the first movie, but it wasn't shown. But he just stands there with his arms kind of folded. And that was fun. It was a fun little cameo, I thought. There's a kid who is Elias's friend, sort of his version of Silent Bob. And I'm sitting here watching him, who is this kid? Why is he in here? And then at some point, you see Kevin Smith's daughter, who thankfully isn't in the movie much. I'm not a huge fan of her acting at least. But yeah, there's a part where then she kind of like makes a kissy face or something to show that she's attracted to this guy. And so I go, okay, that's probably her boyfriend. And I looked it up, and yes, that is her boyfriend in real life. So apparently Kevin Smith liked him enough to put him in his movie. So that was nice for him, I guess. But I didn't love him. I didn't need him, I guess. Part of this movie, watching it, reminded me a bit of Adam Sandler because much like Kevin Smith, Adam Sandler obviously has gone into more success, but he makes these movies with his friends, same kind of group of people, and they seem to have fun, kind of making these goofy little movies that aren't really critically well regarded. Now, Adam Sandler's movies obviously make a lot more money, but yeah, so something like that reminded me. And also, like Adam Sandler, his movies kind of got a little more treacly and sentimental at some point. Like Adam Sandler did Big Daddy and then started doing a lot of these kind of click, type movies where, I don't know, it was just a little too overly sentimental for me. And Kevin Smith started to do that a little bit with Jersey Girl. And there's a little bit of over sentimentality in this, maybe. But I think in a way, he's arguably his career is a little bit more like George Lucas always said he wanted to make these little independent movies and he wanted to make the movies he wanted to make. I feel like Kevin Smith has done that. Like Stuart Gordon, he's kind of gone on to just do whatever he wants. If he wants to do a horror movie, if he wants to do a weird Nazi sausage movie, he does it and doesn't really care what people think. So that's pretty cool, I think. There's a scene of the credits. So I had read online that Kevin Smith talks over the credits, so you should stay for the credits. But then he didn't start talking immediately. So I thought, oh, he must not be doing it on this one. And so I got up to leave, and then I noticed everyone else was still sitting there. So I sat back down, and then he started talking, and it was somewhat interesting, like a director's commentary kind of thing. And then credits were over, so I get up to leave again, and then some behind the scenes featurette thing kind of starts playing afterward, which I'm like, okay, so I sit back down for that. And then I watched that all the way through. And then when I got to leave, everyone was gone. So I think everyone at some point through the featurette just said, let's go. And I didn't love the featurette. I didn't need it necessarily. It was fine. But, I felt awkward. I wanted to let the guys get in there and clean up. I wanted them to do their job. So, yeah, I didn't need that necessarily so much, but it was kind of cool to see them talk about it being made in Jersey and see some behind the scenes stuff. Like I said, the movie's got a $7 million budget, which is relatively low. I think they have a good chance of making their money back. They're doing this Fathom Events thing, and they're also doing a live tour where Kevin Smith goes out and does a Q&A afterwards. So I'm sure they'll make their money back. It's pretty low. Rotten Tomato score on this movie is one where the difference between the critics and the fans is pretty significant. When I looked, it was 68 to 95, and then I think I just saw it was 66 for the critics. So it's going down with them. Critics seem to like this one more than most of his other movies, and a lot of them seem to say that it's probably his best movie in 10 years, and I'm inclined to agree with them. But it looks like the fans, at least, are really liking it. Of course, the reviews are going to be heavily loaded to the people who are going to see it the first couple days, which are going to be the hardcore fans. So, of course, they're going to like it. So I'm sure that score will go down eventually. But I do think this is the kind of movie, if you're a Kevin Smith fan, I think you're going to like it. It would be really hard not to like it. And I think if you're the kind of person who ever tried to make a movie with your friends or ever wanted to make a movie, you're going to like it too. It would be really hard not to because there's so many just funny, relatable kind of things. It's the kind of movie that I think he said Cinema Paradiso was his goal here. And I think in some ways he achieved that, a low budget, schlocky, kind of vulgar version of it, but he did. And so I really liked it. I think overall my score for this movie would be an 8 out of 10. So if you saw the movie, let me know what you thought of it down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great night, and I will see you here again next week.